බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීඝ්‍රගාමී රසයේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්. බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීඝ්‍රගාමී රසයේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්.
On satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Making headlines first at 9. No confidence motion. Former Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake missing from cabinet meeting. The decision on no confidence motion looms in Parliament. No freehold. President Maithripala Sirisena reiterates land for foreign investments will not be given outright. Same-day elections. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa claims the Gazette 20th Amendment is a blatant tactic to postpone elections. And in sports headlines, throw gone wrong. Jadeja suspended from third test over dangerous play. And in international headlines, shaken. 19 die in earthquake in China. Live across Sri Lanka, this is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7. Good evening everyone, I'm Mahesh Johnny. We begin our broadcast tonight with details of the cabinet meeting that took place this morning. President Maithripala Sirisena presided over the cabinet meeting held this morning at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo. Notably, the much talked about former Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake, however, did not participate in the meeting. Meanwhile, in Parliament yesterday, it was decided that a final decision regarding the no confidence motion presented against former Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake will be taken up tomorrow at the party leaders' meeting.
Parliamentarians representing the SLFP had met with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe before the cabinet meeting today to discuss the no confidence motion against Minister Ravi Karunanayake. They had requested the Premier to make decisions in line with the opinion of the general public. Meanwhile, a few parliamentarians expressed their views following the cabinet meeting today.
සාකච්ඡාවක් තිබුණා අභ්‍යන්තර සාකච්ඡාවක් ඒක නිසා මට ඒක නම් තොරතුරු දෙන්න අමාරුයි. කරුණානායක එතුමා ගැන මොකක්ද ඔබතුමාලා ගන්න තීරණය ගත්ත? මේ රටේ පිරිසුදු ආණ්ඩුවක අවශ්‍යතාවය අපේක්ෂා කර ජනතාවගේ අපේක්ෂාවන් මුදුන්පත් වෙයි. කවද වගේද මේ තීරණය ඔබතුමාලා දැනුම් දෙන්නේ? දන්නේ නැහැ ඒක ඉක්මනට එතුමා දැන් කොහොමද රවි කරුණානායක මහතාගේ අලුත්ම තත්ත්වය? මොනවත් නැහැ ඉතින්. රවි කරුණානායක ඇමතිතුමා ගැන මාධ්‍යයෙන් මහා ලොකුවට කතා කරාට මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඇතුළු ඒ රජය කරපු දේවල් තවම හොයලා ඉවර නැහැනේ. රවි කරුණානායක ඇමතිතුමා වැරදිකාරයෙක් කරලා නැහැනේ කොහෙවත් උසාවියක. මං හිතනවා ඒ ප්‍රශ්න ටික ඉවර වෙනකන් එතුමා ඇමතිකමින් අයින් වෙලා එතුමාට පුළුවන් മന്ത്രിවරයෙක් හැටියට ඉඳලා ඊට පස්සේ ඒ ප්‍රශ්න ටික ඉවර වුණාම මේක තමයි යහපාලනය කියන්නේ. ඉල්ලාසෙන කියලා ජනාධිපතිතුමා කියලා තියෙනවද? නෑ මම දන්නේ විදියට නම් ජනාධිපතිතුමාවත් අගමැතිතුමාවත් එතුමාට ඉල්ලාසෙන්නේ කියලා නැහැ කියන එක තමයි මම විශ්වාස කරන්නේ. හිටපු මුදලාදී රවි කරුණානායකට විශ්වාස භංග යෝජනා ගෙන ඒකපද ඒ ගැන මොන හරි කතාවක්? ඒක මේ අපේ රටේ ජාතික සංවර්ධන න්‍යාය පත්‍රනේ අද සාකච්ඡා කරේ. ඔබතුමාගේ අදහස මොකක්ද මේ රවි කරුණානායක ඉවත් යුතුද නැත්නම් තව දුරටත් රටේ ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් නිවාස ඉදිකිරීම අමාත්‍යාංශය දෙවන්ත වැඩ කොටසක් කරගෙන යනවා. වෙනත් ප්‍රශ්න ගැන කතා කිරීම නෙවෙයි මගේ අරමුණ.
Meanwhile, opinions on the no confidence motion against Minister Ravi Karunanayake were forthcoming today as well. Several politicians expressed their views on the stance on this matter.
I have spoken with the President, the Prime Minister and even with Minister Ravi Karunanayake. I have shared my views of the issue. We should be fully transparent at this juncture. If I was subject to such an allegation, I would resign. There were rumours that Deputy Minister Ajit Perera and I have also received houses. We are attempting to find those houses.
We do not need to vote on the no-confidence motion against Minister Ravi Karunanayake in Parliament. I am sure the issue will be sorted out before we go for a vote in the House. I also think that people will get what they expect.
Media talks much on this. A decision might even be taken tonight. It also might be after 2 to 3 days. We will wait and see. Good governance regime will never safeguard thieves and fraudsters.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa accuses that the government is using the 20th Amendment to the Constitution as a blatant tactic to postpone the election. Addressing a media briefing following an event at the party office of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna today, the former president said the government is struggling to run the country.
Where can we find democracy? If the elections are postponed, when should it be held? The 20th Amendment is a clear tactic to postpone elections. While having two-thirds majority, they struggle to run the government. UNP is in the government. A section of the SLFP is also in the government. President, he is also in the government. Tamil parties support the government while being in the opposition. JVP also does the same thing. They are all just one group which work towards the victory of the swan during the election. That is why they conclude their speeches blaming us. They can't manage this government. We clearly said that it would happen within 2 Vesak Poya days. Only one has passed.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa also released a statement today titled Postponing Elections and Dismantling Democracy. In the statement, he says the government can hold elections on the same day by bringing all elections forward to 2017 instead of postponing till 2019. Furthermore, it added that the SLFP-UPFA group in Parliament can deprive the government of the two-thirds majority needed to pass the 20th Amendment and noted. The former president also requests every member of the SLFP and the UPFA in Parliament to oppose the proposed 20th Amendment and the amendment to the Provincial Council Elections Law brought with the view of postponing the forthcoming Provincial Council elections and to extend the terms of the existing Provincial Councils without an election. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Professor G.L. Piris made the following comments on the 20th Amendment to the Constitution in Colombo today.
I wish to say that even if the 20th Amendment to the Constitution is passed by obtaining a two-third majority in Parliament, it will not be legal. We need to hold a referendum. I will be personally handing in a petition to the Supreme Court to issue an order to conduct a referendum.
Meanwhile, 30 members from the Maubima Venuwen Ranaviru Association obtained memberships to the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna today.
President Maithripala Sirisena says that none of the land used for foreign investments will be given to the relevant investors on freehold. President made the remarks at an event held at the BMICH today.
Sri Lanka-China Society organised the event to mark the 60-year completion of diplomatic relations between the two countries.
We were able to solve issues related to the much criticised Hambantota port deal while protecting the sovereignty of Sri Lanka. I specifically advised the representatives of my government to include a condition which says that the ownership of land used for these foreign investments cannot be given to any country through an agreement. We included the same condition in the Hambantota port agreement as well.
Presidency suggests to strengthen, promote trade and economic cooperation, particularly through big projects to help Sri Lanka to reach or to set up your own industrialization. So that's why the Chinese government and I as ambassador continue our efforts to have the port city and also to have the Hambantota International Zone. So in these years, the economic cooperation and trade cooperation enlarged. The trade amount more than $4 billion. We will make friends with South Asia countries, particularly Sri Lanka. This is our policy. This is our strategy.
Meanwhile, in Parliament, questions were raised to the Prime Minister with regard to the Hambantota port deal. In response, the Prime Minister said that provisions were made for a debate, but due to certain actions by the opposition, the opportunity was lost.
After signing the agreement with China Merchant Ports, what are the amendments made to that agreement?
It seems like we've shifted from a heap of garbage to a heap of loans. It is indeed a heap of loans. We have not made amendments to that agreement after signing it. We had given the opportunity for debate in Parliament so that questions could be raised on this matter. But the opposition wanted to disrupt that debate. What we wanted to do was take a decision after the debate, and if there were amendments, to inform the Cabinet and then proceed from that point. Because the debate did not take place, the Cabinet did not convene on the matter.
The parliamentary debate was scheduled on Friday and this agreement was scheduled to be signed on Saturday. So do you believe that after debating till 7:30 p.m. it would be possible to include changes to an agreement that is to be signed the next day?
If there were any changes, then we could have spoken to the company and requested an additional 48 hours to discuss the changes. So because there was no debate and no amendments, they signed it the next day and left the country.
In other local stories, the All Ceylon Farmers Federation engaged in a protest today requesting the government to provide compensation for drought-affected cultivations. The protest was carried out in front of Ministry of Agriculture premises in Bathramula, and representatives of the federation were able to meet the Minister of Agriculture. Farmers representing the All Ceylon Farmers Federation commenced their protest at Parliament roundabout, citing several requests including the 40,000 rupee compensation for drought-affected cultivations. Although the protesters attempted to enter the Ministry of Agriculture, they were thwarted by barriers set up by police. Several representatives of the All Ceylon Farmers Federation, including the national organizer of the federation, Nama Karunaratne, held discussions with the Secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture, B. Vijayaratne. The Secretary agreed on the payment of compensation for 65,000 families, and the decision was announced to the farmers. Representatives of the federation participated in discussions with Minister of Agriculture, Duminta Dissanayake, as well.
The farmers should have 30,000 rupees more. They told everyone that they will give the farmers 40,000 rupees. They deceived the people of this country. We have approved the cabinet paper and we have taken measures to give the farmers 2,500 rupees every 2 weeks.
The National Fisheries Solidarity Movement meanwhile launched a protest calling for the return of lands in Kilinochchi which were brought under the Sri Lankan Navy. The protest was also held in front of the railway station in Petta today. The protesters marched to the Presidential Secretariat and submitted a petition. The protest, organized by a group of disabled soldiers against delays in payment of pension and allowances to soldiers with a service period of 22 years, still continues. A soldier stated that they are determined not to give up their protest until a meeting with the president is arranged. A soldier fell sick during the protest and was admitted to the Narahempita Army Hospital for treatment. UPFA parliamentarian Keheliya Rambukalla highlights political stability to be an important factor when considering investments in the country. The parliamentarian touched on the subject while commenting on the Hambantota Port agreement at a media briefing convened by the joint opposition in Colombo today.
Why are they selling our resources? They do not understand the difference between the terms selling and leasing. Have you ever heard of giving a lease for 99 years? Nowhere in the world have I ever heard of an agreement that can be changed after signing. What needs to be thoroughly looked into when investing? It is political stability. The investors sense that there is political instability in this country, and according to their estimate, they say that things cannot change in 6 months.
MP Rambukwalla also spoke on the bond issue.
The bond issue is not an accident. Who were the cabinet ministers that accompanied Arjuna Mahendran for discussions? They were ministers Malik Samaravikrama, Kabir Hashim and Ravi Karnanayaka. They were part of the discussions prior to the incident. They say that trillion rupees in losses were incurred because of the bond issue. A trillion is 1,000 billion rupees and it is 8 times the amount of the Hambantota harbour. We urge them to hold discussions with perpetual treasuries immediately, even on a temporary basis. But they did not. If they did, it would not have reached 1 trillion rupees.
The Chief Executive Officer of Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited, Kasun Palisena, told the Commission of Inquiry today the belief that the existing system would be changed with the new government coming to power on the 8th of January 2015 led to tabling bids 15 times the announced amount. This information was revealed when he appeared before the Commission of Inquiry for the second day today.
Responding to questions raised by the counsel representing Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited, Nihal Fernando, he said an officer of the Public Debt Department of the Central Bank called him the day before the issuance and asked if he would like to buy 30-year bonds in the auction scheduled to be held the next day. Commission member Justice Prasanna Jayawardena then questioned him as to why Perpetual Treasuries bid for a higher yield rate than the 9.35% rate prevailing in the market. He also questioned him as to why he thought the central bank would accept bids 15 times higher than what was announced. In response, Palisena said that he thought the government had a monetary requirement of about 300 billion rupees, since it had to pay the promised 10,000 rupee salary increment in the state sector, and it had to pay the interest on the loans obtained by the government. Commission member Justice Prasanna Jayawardena then said the government had to pay similar interests on debt during previous bond auctions. Kasun Palisena responded saying he expected a change in the existing system with the new government coming into power. Justice Jayawardena then stated that since a change in the policy was not announced, despite a new governor being appointed, he cannot justify the decision of Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited.
Venerable Buddhangala Anandathera and the commander of Jaffna, Major General Darshana Hettiarachchi, met Jaffna High Court Judge M. Milanchelian at the Supreme Court complex yesterday. They commended the High Court judge's efforts in assisting the family of late Police Sergeant Sarath Premachandra, who was part of his security detail. He was killed in the line of duty when protecting the judge recently. Venerable Buddhangala Anandathera is a former Major General of the Army whose lay name was Ananda Veerasekara. Minister of Social Empowerment, Welfare and Kandyan Heritage, S.B. Dissanayake, says that external influences are affecting the President's attempts to strengthen the party and creates various issues. The minister made the comment at an event held in Hangurankata yesterday.
It is wrong of Mahinda Rajapaksa to give part of the party to President Maithripala Sirisena willingly and then conspire to break it apart. What the President is asking for is to give him the strength to form a good government. Instead, what we can see is he is trying to make someone else the President, someone that is not from this party.
Samurdhi beneficiaries carried out island-wide protests today. They charged that Samurdhi subsidies are being slashed. Protests were launched in areas of Angunakola Palasa, Valasmulla and Veerakatiya.
Coming up on First at 9.
Prime Minister on developing the plantation sector.
Coming up next.
On to business news now. The government plans to uplift and restructure regional plantation companies in Sri Lanka, with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe saying today that new laws will be introduced to this end. Speaking at the Colombo International Tea Convention, the Prime Minister also stressed that investment is key for the survival of the tea industry.
The opening ceremony of the Colombo International Tea Convention was held in Colombo this morning under the auspices of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Delegates and representatives from tea-producing countries are engaging in the two-day workshop where topics relating to sustainability, heritage, trade and logistical trends receive focus.
As far as the regional plantation companies are concerned belong to the state, we will bring in a law which will put out the duties and the functions, and you will find a more active golden shareholder. And they'll all be accountable to Parliament. We'll assess the performance of the RPCs. Nothing for nothing is my policy. So bad performers should exist in the sector. The country can't pay the price for it. RPCs will have to become standalone companies, not taken into large groups, added on to the balance sheet so they get a better return or price for their shares. You're running RPC, look, that is earning money for us. And there will be qualifications for directors, who can be a non-working director and how many working directors. There's only one market for tea. That's the global tea market and not the Colombo share market.
Colombo equities extended their losing streak for a 9th consecutive session today despite continuous net foreign inflows. The all-share index closed down 18 points at 6,506, while the S&P SL20 index shed 20 points to close at 3,734. Now, for a full report on the day's trading, let's cross over to RM Sivanandan from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,950.85 billion rupees. Top 5 gainers of the day were SMB Leasing, Adam Capital, Lanka Ashok Leyland, Lanka Ceramic and Tessagro non-voting. While the top 5 losers were PC Palmer, Royal Palms Beach Hotels, Malayan Pips, Blue Diamonds and Tessagro. Today there were 14 crossings and the crossing turnover was 434.38 million rupees.
On to sports news now. Indian spinner and man of the match in the second test against Sri Lanka at Galle, Ravindra Jadeja has been suspended by the International Cricket Council and will play no part in the third test at Pallekele.
Ravindra Jadeja's suspension comes after he fielded off his own bowling in the 58th over of the second Sri Lankan innings and threw the ball at batsman Malinda Pushpakumara in what the on-field umpires deemed a dangerous manner. Jadeja was also fined 50% of his match fee and will be replaced by left-arm spin-bowling all-rounder Akshar Patel in India's squad for the third test.
Coming up on First at 9.
An earthquake rocks China's Sichuan province.
Coming up next.
Moving on to international news now. At least 19 people are killed and 247 injured in an earthquake that struck China's Sichuan province yesterday. The quake, measured at a magnitude of 7 on the Richter scale, hit a mountainous, sparsely populated area west of the city of Guangdong.
China's state media said today that as many as 30,000 tourists have been evacuated from the quake zone as it struck close to a nature reserve. 6 tourists are among the dead, and the Sichuan Earthquake Administration said the epicenter of the tremor was in the Nagawa prefecture, largely populated by ethnic Tibetans. A deadly quake hit the same area in 2008, killing 70,000 people. But Chinese authorities expect the death toll in yesterday's quake to be around 100, with 130,000 homes damaged.
North Korea said today that it is considering carrying out missile strikes on the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam. The statement came hours after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened North Korea with a, quote, fire and fury, unquote, as tensions rise following fresh UN sanctions over the reclusive state.
The UN recently approved further economic sanctions on North Korea, which threatened to cut its export revenue by a third and Pyongyang responded saying the US would pay a price. The latest exchange of heated rhetoric between the two countries prompted the governor of Guam to issue a statement.
And I want to reassure the people of Guam that currently there is no threat to our island or the Marianas. An attack or threat on Guam is a threat or attack on the United States.
Well, it's now time to take a look at what the weather holds for the next 24 hours. For that, let's cross over to Katharina Chang at the Weather Centre.
A very good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Now, Sri Lanka can expect some mild temperatures ranging between 21 and 32 degrees Celsius over the next 24 hours. Now, we're seeing a formation of a low pressure zone in the western and northern region of the island. Now, this could bring about thunder showers in Anuradhapura, Trincomalee and Batticaloa areas, while intermittent showers may continue over Colombo, Galle, Mathura and Kandy. It's now time to take a quick look at the city-by-city forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. We will return tomorrow first at 9. Be sure to join us then. Before we wrap things up for tonight, we would like to take you to the north of Japan, where one of the country's most popular summer festivals, the Nebuta Festival, was held. The display of massive lanterns featuring mythical gods and fabled creatures draw almost 3 million visitors every year. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.